All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. We got a Naz special, ladies and gentlemen, as the window comes crashing shut. We've got the man here to keep us at least up to date for about hour to hour how it's going. Naz, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not the one chasing leads. I'm just scrolling Twitter. My life's a lot easier. I'm waiting for you to send me something.
Oh man, yeah, this time of year it's definitely chasing. I've been running around a lot.
We've got a good opportunity to catch up. Would remind everyone we were recording in the morning in the U.S. Side of August 30th, Wednesday. We're going to get this up as soon as we can because we know things are going to move fast. So it's only as good as 7:15 a.m. Central. Anyways, Naz, the big early news right away this morning. We were going to record yesterday, didn't work out. Wake up, at least on my side, to the news about Cole Palmer, Manchester City winger, young attacker. What's going on here? Out of left field.
It's definitely out of left field. I expected left field though, so to an extent, I was just thinking, where's it going to come from? And then it turns out it's Cole Palmer. I knew it would be a under 21 player, which it is, but other than that, it was a bit of a surprise. But yeah, it's interesting. Chelsea have done deals with these big clubs, and now they're going to a big club to try and get a deal out of them. So it's interesting to see if it works the other way. And Chelsea have sold Mateo Kovacic over there, so the two parties know how to do a deal together. But can they do one for Cole Palmer? It remains to be seen. But certainly, there's absolutely no doubt of quite serious interest here, and it's probably the most serious interest I'm hearing in any attacker at the moment. Like you said, as of my time, 1:15 p.m. UK time, so on Wednesday the 30th of August. So he seems currently to be the main man Chelsea want, and yeah, he ticks a lot of boxes, right?
I mean, I guess so. I was just about to hit FB ref because 21, right? We know he's young. I think his minutes have been limited, but if you trust Pep in the whole Phil Foden situation, that seemed to have worked out. He's on contract till 2026, so this will have to be a deal done between the two clubs. Can score goals, is good at moving the ball forward, progressive carries, good passing. I'm trying to see. He was FB ref likes him to Martin Odegaard, Seko Fofana, some other players like that. But does he normally play out wide? Isn't that kind of his comfortable spot?
Yeah, he plays out wide a lot, but I've heard him compared to a variety of different kinds of players. He's not like your rapid winger. He's more of your classy, creative winger. So I think that would tick a lot of boxes. There's definitely similarities as well to Michael Elise. Don't forget Chelsea had a failed bid there. So I think that's sort of where it comes from. Some of the some of the style of play he'll bring, but I think he could play number 10 as well. Looking at the way he plays, I've seen him compared in his youth a lot to Mesut Ozil actually, who obviously was a great number 10 in his prime and a less great one in his at the end of his career. But yeah, I think that's sort of the player that he's sometimes compared to. Quite a classy, technical player. I mean, he scored the winning goal when England won the European Championships under 21s this summer. Noni Madueke is part of that group, and so is Levi Colwill, really big parts of that group. And yeah, I mean, Man City, you talk about Cobham's academy, Man City's academy is very similar. The highest paying academy in the north of England, very strong. So yeah, to get a player out of it, it's unusual, but yeah, I think he ticks a lot of the technical boxes that Chelsea are looking for. So if they get it done, I think they'll be pretty delighted.
Yeah, look, red flag downside, not a lot of minutes, right? 500 minutes across 5 seasons in the Premier League, 2,000 minutes across 3 seasons in the PL2. When he does play, especially at that level, 13 goals, 6 assists back in 2020, 2021, 8 goals, 4 assists the next season, but he definitely split more time between the first team. That's the only thing. But again, if he's coming out of Pep Guardiola's system, it doesn't mean that he's not ready or not good. It's just a matter of how he integrates. I
Yeah,
had to ping Phil real quick, right? Chelsea Youth. And I was like, hey, where we at? He's like really good player, tidy player. I think Phil will probably be like, well, we're also talking about, looking internally and things like that. But Phil loves good, promising young English players. And so if he says good stuff, then that's all I need to hear. Money, contract, I'm sure that's going to be the sticking point at this thing. Do you have any insight on where they're at as far as pegging pricing?
Not really, but I think they're just showing an interest and not being pushed away.
Ah,
I think
gotcha.
it will. I think it will take a significant amount of money. So that's going to be interesting. I think we know probably from the targets Chelsea have been looking at that they're willing to pay something like £40 million. Is that enough? Man City have a pretty strong hand, but I also think it's a bit unfair for Man City to reject it. You were talking about lack of minutes. He's 21 now. He needs to be getting minutes. So I think, for me, it would be a bad look if Man City are rejecting strong bids for him. So, yeah, that's kind of somewhat my feeling, my emotional feeling towards a player who I think is really talented and could go on to become an England international. And hey, it's also Euro 2024 next summer. So okay, we've got a lot of great players in that position in England, but he'll want to push, he'll want to try and give it a go. And if he's at Chelsea playing regularly, then he just has that chance.
Look, age, profile, these are the things that really fall in line with what Chelsea's looking at, right? This does make sense based on what the sporting directors have done up to this point and things like that. So, um, Madueke, right? Essentially the same age, came from PSV. Oh, interesting. I'm like starting to connect the dots here and see. He's a left-footed player as well. So just to add a little bit of variety, again, Nani Madueke. Like, are we just stacking players here, or I? This is where we're getting a little bit goofy, Naz, because I wonder how if we're starting to create a little bit of redundancy for ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's always a danger with Chelsea. It sometimes feels like they don't really look at the talent they've got in front of them. I think, Phil's complained about that on Twitter, hasn't he? Some of the academy players as well. You're looking at Hudson Odoi being sold to Nottingham Forest right now. And I can tell you for a fact that Hudson Odoi is a more talented footballer than Cole Palmer. Hudson Odoi is a unbelievable technician and he outshone all the Man City players, all the Arsenal players that are doing great in the league, but he's lost his way, of course, and needs to get back on track. Now, Chelsea aren't willing to rehabilitate him, Forest are. Maybe that's where he's got to, and that's a shame. But, for me, I think sometimes it rankles a little bit that Chelsea don't look too much internally, and I'm worried a little bit about Noni Madueke. We talk as well on the eve of that Wimbledon game, which will be very important for him. And also, don't forget, Chelsea have one game a week this season. Okay, there's maybe a bit more rotation in attack than other positions, but it's still. I worry that if everyone gets fit and Chelsea get the medical record right, there's going to be certain players that really will be lost in the system. So maybe that won't happen. Maybe Chelsea will just plagued with injuries all season, but it's a concern a little bit in who's going to get lost, and maybe that's just the price of being a big club that some players do get lost, and I guess there would still be sell-on value for people like Noni, but it would be a shame to see him blocked.
So yesterday, and this kind of like hit Twitter and then just went away, was Emil Smith Rowe from Arsenal, another young attacker. He probably plays more centrally in that number 10 role, which is a little bit of a hole right now with the Carney Chukwuemeka and Kunku injury. Did anything come of that on your end? It seems like it's literally just poof gone.
Yeah, I think I looked at it initially and I thought this probably isn't going to happen, and then I checked it out and it wasn't. I thought the same about Cole Palmer. I was like, this probably isn't going to happen. I checked it out and I was like, oh, it might happen. So that's kind of how these things go, really. But yeah, he would have been a good option for Chelsea, but it's just Arsenal just don't want to sell him. So that's the end of that, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got a bit of an injury record too. Not that he's not a good player, but even like hard to break into the Arsenal team last season as well, partially because they were doing so well. But interesting. Any other attackers? I mean, the crazy one is I think like Shirky. We haven't really heard much. It looks like um, we tried to talk about Barcolo. Yeah, I guess what are you hearing kind of on your side of it? Any rumblings?
Yeah, I still think there could be another turn in this story. So yeah, we talked a lot about Cole Palmer, and hopefully it doesn't get too old by the time this comes out. But I think there could be further twists and turns very fast. That's the point of the transfer window we're at. Chelsea have been offered Ansu Fati, which is interesting, but he's on. It's a very different deal to Cole Palmer, right? Cole Palmer's on not a huge amount of money at Man City's young player, not coming through, but Barcelona have put Ansu Fati on a monster contract, and Chelsea kind of would have to match that, and it would be a huge operation, putting him among Chelsea's top earners if he came in. Spurs have also been offered the player as well. Both teams are looking for similar types of attackers. Spurs are going for Brennan Johnson now ahead of Chelsea. I'm not sure what the chicken and the egg situation is with that. If Spurs managed to win the race, or if Chelsea just backed out and weren't interested and Spurs came in, but certainly that seems to be moving it forward for them. And then Bradley Barcola you mentioned. It's not really ever lit up, that one. It feels like a deal Chelsea could just go and do. Maybe they'll go back to him if they fail to get other targets, and that's probably what Chelsea are doing right now, is sounding out multiple options, and seeing where they end up at the end of the window, because they can go right up until deadline day, still 48, 60 hours to go. So I think that's sort of, Chelsea could be making very late deals here, and it could be any kind of deal from a permanent to a loan. So let's see what they end up doing.
Okay. I mean, like we said, that's the one from Poch that he's really focused in on from the final addition to the squad. Interesting. We got the goalkeeper story. We talked about Petrovic. You and I did a little bit. He isn't going to be able to start because of work permit. No concerns there, right? That's just a formality.
Yeah, just a formality. I think, sometimes just the bureaucracy is a little slow. Just ways. Yeah, I was looking at the point system actually, and he's quite on the borderline of actual sort of work permit. But Chelsea have there's new rules now in the Premier League where you can get a few players through on the loophole, and I think Chelsea know they can do that even if he doesn't get the initial work permit. So either way, he'll be a Chelsea player. It's just a matter of time. So and bureaucracy. So I think that they're pretty relaxed about that, and know he'll be the number two initially, and then maybe number one as time goes on.
And then with that being said, he's 23, 10,000 professional like senior team minutes. He's coming in, obviously gonna be with Robert Sanchez. Do you have an idea of how those maybe are gonna overlap each other, right? Or potentially push each other? Is George Petrovic ready to go? Do they feel? Do you think that he needs some more time?
Yeah, I think that Petrovic is kind of seen as one for the future. I think he's a bit of a rough diamond in some aspects, but he's also, I think, in your pods you've also talked about how good he is in other aspects, and the shot stopping is clearly the ultimate thing for him. He's had some ridiculous stats in that regard. I was actually talking to a really top goalkeeper about him, and he was saying he's basically the new David De Gea in terms of his style of play. And that's kind of a compliment, but a bit of a backhanded one in some ways as well, because he needs to improve his passing. He's good at very simple short passing, so he can play out from the back, but the variety isn't quite there. And part of that really is New England Revolution aren't a very advanced team compared to your likes of your Chelseas or the big teams in the Premier League. So he's not quite got that side of the game, and that's what he needs to develop, I think. But yeah, great in other areas. I think he'll be, and kind of that's what you want from a number two anyway. One you can develop, one who would be a top shot stopper, one you could maybe bring on in a penalty shootout in a cup final, like we've seen a few goalkeepers do, including Chelsea ones. He could do that potentially for Chelsea. So he's got some great upticks, but he needs to be developed. He's number two for now. I think he'll be a number two for a good 6 months in case of, unless there's an injury. But if there is an injury, I think Chelsea would trust him all the same. So yeah, they're pretty happy about it, pretty excited. A good fee, and there was a lot of rival interest, and Chelsea won the race, including Man United. So well done to Chelsea on that.
Nice. All right. Well, we're going to take our first ad break when we get back. Enough of the people coming in. We got to talk about the people going out. So take the sponsors and we'll be right back. All right, Naz, let's just start at the back. All right. Let's start at the back of the team and work our way forward. Your lot, Man United, sniffing around Mark Cucurella on loan, it sounds like. Just got to get the fee sorted. What are you hearing?
I'm pretty blown away this is happening, but it seems to be, man. So yeah, Mark Cucurella has had a loan offer from Chelsea. Chelsea want more money from Man United, but they seem pretty open to doing a deal. And I can tell you why actually. The initial bid was a £2 million loan fee, and then covering his wages. They're quite high wages for Chelsea, Cucurella's. So that was quite a decent offer, I think. But Chelsea want about £5 to £8 million instead of 2 million. So it's a bit of a jump, but it's quite interesting Man United's timing as well. They kind of timed the bid for when Lukaku went through to Roma. And that's quite interesting because the overseas loan spots are really being filled up now. Chelsea have just one left. They've got David Washington, who they want to send out on loan. So it's pretty much filled up. So Chelsea either have to keep Marc Cucurella or loan him to an English team, basically. And most English teams can't afford Cucurella's wages. So Man United are pretty smart and pretty strategic coming in and saying, look, it's either us or nobody. What are you going to do? And now Chelsea kind of have to make up their mind. You know, how much are they going to get out United? What's a compromise? Things like this. I think it's quite interesting. Man United might just sit there and wait until deadline day and say, look, are you going to keep him or are you going to send him to us? That's the choice you've got now. But I think Chelsea could benefit from it as well as Man United benefiting from it because Maatsen, it might give him a bit more confidence to stay, a bit more space to play, and maybe that would help the situation with Maatsen. So very, very, very interesting scenario there. And yeah, of course, I didn't mention Man United have a bit of an injury crisis at left back, so that's why they're interested.
Which is good, right? Short-term fix for Manchester United, Premier League proven player. On Chelsea's side, we've got too many left backs. Like story for the last 6 years now is copy paste, Marcus Alonso, all the way back to there. So interesting. Obviously, from a fan's perspective, we're all thinking about Ian Maatsen because his future's kind of been up in the air. Yesterday broke that Burnley were trying to do a loan deal for Ian, but at the same time, this Cucurella deal started to pick up steam. So I'm assuming Chelsea would prefer to keep Ian Maatsen and let Cucurella go on loan, or is there a flip side? Are there two deals in parallel, and Chelsea are just trying to pick which option they want for these left-sided players?
Maybe a little bit, but I think that Maatsen's actually more likely to leave permanently than on loan. I've been asking about it, and it's very much paced that permanent's way more likely. So yeah, I'm just getting a message from a contact there.
Knew
Yeah,
it.
so I think like yeah, a permanent deal is more likely with Matson, and I know that's not what fans want to hear, but I also heard that it's more likely he'll either stay or do a permanent deal. So it's kind of
Right.
there's two good options there. Loan is actually the least likely option from what I'm hearing. So yeah, I think that that's sort of where Matson is. It's very much on a knife edge for him. And yeah, we'll kind of have to see what happens there. But Burnley and West Ham both interested in the permanent.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. I mean, obviously, very interesting between the two. He just clearly wants a future, right? He wants a permanent solution for a young player. You can very much understand that. Wild to think that he could leave so young and promising after such a great season in the championship. And this season got nothing to lose. I hope we can see him out. So this is how I look at the left back situation as is it you let Cucurella go on loan, you have Ian Maatsen, and we find out is he good enough or not. But now you had like a season to vet him, see if he can play at this level, see if he fits where you need him to, and then you can make a decision next season. I actually think the Cucurella thing to United is like a win-win because Cucurella, you know exactly where he's at. The market's there. Ian's the unknown.
Yeah, exactly. I think Chelsea need to do everything, move heaven and earth to keep Matson. And I think they might have to offer him a new deal because he doesn't have that long left on his deal either, like 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
Chelsea don't like having 2 years left on a player's deal. They don't want to be held over a barrel next summer. So I think that that's going to be key as well. Is like, I broke a few weeks ago that they were in conversations about renewing his contract. I don't think it's got very close, but things happen so quickly at this time of year. So it might not be close today, but tomorrow it could be very close. So I think that that's sort of where we're at with Matson. A contract renewal and him staying is probably the best case scenario for Chelsea.
Yeah. All right. A new one that just coming out this morning a little bit. Malong Sar to Nottingham Forest. This is Pochettino's Malong Sar, by the way, Naz.
Yeah, yeah. Who? No, I think that one was one that didn't have a lot of interest, so it's quite interesting. Forest love this market for a low cost player.
They do,
Um,
don't they? Talk about
yeah,
accumulation.
yeah, exactly, man. So yeah, it's and I think it would suit Fulham as well. They would, but he would probably have to play left back for Fulham. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. And I think also don't expect a huge fee for Malang Sarr because his wages are very high. Chelsea, for some reason, signed him on a 100 grand a week contract all those years ago, and it felt like a good deal because he was a free, but frees are never free. Frees have sometimes huge contracts, and that is what Malang Sarr is on. Yeah, don't expect a big fee for that. But I've not really heard too much about Malang Sarr, and that's probably my first message on WhatsApp after I get off this call.
I'm sure. Yeah. The French reporter saying that he might even be able to leave for free because so Chelsea can just move him on. Trevoh Chalobah, right? Sounds like Bayern Munich are coming in, and there's concrete interest, is what's being reported. He's not even healthy right now, which is interesting, although we're getting nice little injury updates from the club. What's going on with Trevoh here?
Yeah, he's definitely got the interest, which is great for him because I think he kind of wants to stay and fight for his future at Chelsea, unless, and I think this is a bit of an asterisk, which has been a bit lost, is that if a top club comes for him, I think he would be very interested in it because I think it's clear the writing's on the wall for him at Chelsea. Disasi's move was the point when I think that he started to be a bit concerned about his future. I think he was willing to fight for his place until that Disasi deal went through. So yeah, that's the issue for him. It's still a massive question mark, this Bayern Munich move though, because they are canvassing like a huge number of options. So I kind of just feel like Trevoh is one of many. I think they would love to do a loan with option for Trevor and then maybe get a midfielder in as well. I mean, Thomas Tuchel loves the English players as well now, so he's just looking for players in the Premier League, really. So yeah, it kind of depends on Chelsea letting him go on a loan, but I don't really see, Chelsea initial asking price of £50 million. So Bayern aren't going to pay that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of compromise needing doing here. And I could see it not going through, to be honest.
Yeah, it probably just comes down to how willing Chelsea are to negotiate on the fee, right? 50's not going to happen for him. We all like him, right? Cobham grad. We love that he likes to fight for the club. But if you just think about the player's perspective, a lot of empathy, he's had a tough little run. He got frozen out. Chelsea continued to sign players. He continues to battle through. He probably thought this is going to be his chance to have a lane at that right center back with Wesley Fofana having the significant knee injury. And here we are again. Like you said, Disasi showed up. They just went and got another one. And I don't know. I do feel bad because he just wants to play and he really hasn't gotten that chance consistently.
I think the signal to him is that Chelsea don't believe he's good enough, which I think some Chelsea fans might think that. Some others may think that he needs to improve, but he can get there. And that's kind of where I kind of see him, is that, yeah, he needs to improve, but he can get there. But I think the messages haven't been like that for him. And then there's also, I think we've talked about it many times, that, cashing in on academy players is very, unfortunately, very inviting because the way football finance works, it's kind of pure profit. So if you can get a big fee in for him, I think Chelsea find that very inviting. And they've found that for other players as well, like Mason Mount, like Lewis Hall, who, yeah, they'll get that fee next summer. So there's kind of there's that enjoyment that selling academy players gives you some financial fair play wiggle room to get your deals like your Caicedos, like your Cole Palmer's over the line. And yeah, we talk about incomings, but Chelsea want to balance it with outgoings as well.
Yeah, a lot of balancing from that perspective as well. Maybe not departures permanent, but loans wise. How's this midfield going to shake out? It seems like maybe Ugochukwu is going to stay. Carney's injured. Gallagher seems like he's going to stay after all of that. I know there's some young kind of other players in and amongst it, but any departures, whether it be loan or permanent, from the midfield that you're hearing about?
Well, Gallagher's still not completely off the table now. I think that's interesting one because he plays so much for Poch and he clearly likes him, but he's not completely off the table. If a really good bid comes in, Chelsea might accept it. So I would watch that one in the last few days, but I think they'd happily keep Gallagher all the same, especially Poch. So yeah, I think the midfield is kind of where it is now. It'll be, I think, Ugochukwu deputising for Caicedo, Lavia, and Enzo kind of working together in maybe that position, and then you'd have Gallagher who's playing a bit further forward, kind of a 10, kind of an 8. So I think that's going to be the makeup of the midfield now. There's also many players to come back, and I think even Matson might play in midfield sometimes. So you've got like huge options, and Kunku's coming back, of course. Chukwuemeka's not out for that long, so he'll be back kind of soon. The international break can get players back as well. So there's going to be quite a lot of options in midfield. But really, it's quite a strong. It's gone from kind of Chelsea's weakest position in pre-season to potentially the strongest. So I think it'll be a bit the envy of the Premier League, and Poch doesn't really have any excuses there. He's going to be lining up with good midfields for the next few months, definitely to come, I think.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, Andre Santos went to loan to Forest, which is a bit tough because they have about 4 or 5 players in that position, as we were talking about how they accumulate. So hopefully he can fight through and earn some minutes. And as I was kind of looking at this entire roster now, there's probably 5 to 6 players that need to leave. We said 2 could leave from the defensive unit. If none in the midfield do, then like between the wide attackers and the striker contingency, this is where I think we're going to see some movement. You with the big story, big update on the Callum Hudson-Odoi to Forest piece. What's going on with Cho?
Yeah, I think he's getting his move. It's looking good. Advance definitely talks. So I think everyone knows that the deal should go through now. It's just nice to see Callum playing football because I think I've said it on this pod before. He's probably the best academy player I've ever seen, not just for Chelsea, but for any club. And I've seen Phil Foden, Saka, Smith Rowe, Cole Palmer, all those guys playing academy games, and Hudson-Odoi was better than them. So I'm quite happy to see him getting a move where he can play some football and we can hopefully see him bounce back and be a really heartwarming story. And yeah, Chelsea are agreeing a deal. I'm not sure where the fee's going to land. I think we'll find that out pretty soon. But yeah, probably between maybe something like 8 million with a sell-on clause or something like that. I think that's probably what we're looking at. A good sell-on clause so Chelsea can profit hopefully when Hudson-Odoi gets back to his best. So I think that's what's going to happen. It's what needs to happen, and yeah, I think the fee will be quite low because again he's on high wages. So yeah, it's that's kind of driving down the price a little bit for the buying club.
Yeah, fair. All right, last ad break. When we get back, more, especially the Lukaku thing that sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, so good for Callum, right? I think that he had that big summer where he's going to go to Germany. Chelsea doubled down, supported him post injury, just didn't kick on. Super unlucky. Maybe this will be a good reset for him. To your point, I think a lot of Chelsea fans, really had high hopes for Callum Hudson-Odoi. Hope he can restart his career and get going again. It's just they got to the point where it just never seemed on stable ground with the club, and just kind of is what it is from there. Other departures out of this top line, it sounds like Mason Burstow is going to be part of the first team, so no more loan. It seems like just with injuries and things like that, he'll be needed in the interim, which is going to keep him at the club. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, maybe, but I wouldn't rule it out either that he's got loads of interest. I think clubs will wait late for him. He'll have championship loan moves, which is great. It's actually quite rare for under 21s to have championship loan moves even these days. So he's in a really strong position, and I think Chelsea will weigh that one up right until the very end. I think it's the same for Bashir Humphreys as well in defence. I've been told he's currently slated to stay, but say Chelsea keep Chalobah, like they might be tempted to let him go and play football, which he kind of needs in a way. I'd rather see him go on loan. I'd rather see both players go on loan, especially Bashir Humphreys, who's a defender and could do with refining his talents week in week out in the Championship. And he had that Swansea move that was very close, and then Chelsea made a late decision. We might keep him, and I think that might have been related to Chalobah, that he could Chalobah could go and Bashir would stay. But we'll see. I'd like to see maybe Bashir Humphries go on loan, and I think that those two could go out on loan, Humphries and Burstow.
Interesting. I look, I am done saying anything with the slightest bit of confidence to you, Naz. This is hilarious. Every time I'm like, hey, yeah, they're
Yeah,
probably staying, right? You're like, I don't know, man.
I know. Well, the problem is that everything just changes so much. Like last minute, you're saying these guys are staying, and they do end up going. But currently, the plan is you're right for those to stay. But man, how
what
many times has it changed?
what's your drafts folder look like right now?
Oh mate, I just have a list of names, and I saw a great graphic actually on social media of like all the potential moves, and it was like pretty complicated actually.
It is pretty wild. David Washington just arrived from Brazil, another young attacker. No idea what's going to happen. I mean, you imagine was never intended to stay with Chelsea, but now some of these loan deals are forcing us because we've only got 7 international loan spots. What he's going to end up doing. So my guess is he's going to be the last move to be made in this window, and just see where everything else falls.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the problem for him is
Got
that
one.
he's waiting. He's waiting for the international loan spots to unfold. I mean, we're even talking maybe Chalobah going to Bayern Munich. That's just international loan spot. So uh, everything is up in the air for him. I mean, I think it's such an easy deal for him to do, but it's just about, are you going to run out of spots? I mean, we're hearing as well Tino Angeron's joining Portsmouth, but I was told as well he had international loans that he wanted to explore, but it got limits now. It's seven players, and Ziyech taking up one. Really irritating for the club. I think they don't want to be doing those deals, but they had to. And the same with Rom. Like they really didn't want to use up these spots, and it's cost certain players, and it's a shame. And hopefully David Washington isn't one of those that loses his spot.
It's something that Chelsea need to figure out. It's probably one season, but players are going to look at this moving forward. I don't know. It's the worst thing that David Washington plays. Um, in PL2, it's probably not ideal coming from Santos, but at the end of the day, there's options. We'll figure it out. All right, big one. Romelu Lukaku, AS Roma, done, sealed, delivered. How the hell did this happen? It sounds like the American owners are super excited about him. I love people gaslighting everybody, showing that Jose Mourinho was with him at Everton or at Chelsea. Didn't work. Together at United, didn't work. And now they're going to be together at Roma, like a match made.
Yeah, remarkably, apparently he helped the transfer go through. A lot of conversations. You'd expect Roman to say that, but this one was very much an owner to owner deal, all American affair. The Friedkins who own Roma, and I think Bedad Egbali, who is very active, by the way, in the last days of the window, he is basically living alongside Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart. So you just see them together. They'll be together all the time now for the next 60 hours working on deals together. So Bedad is super hands-on. Super hands-on with Romelu. I think last summer it was Todd who did Romelu to Inter, and I think it was Bedad for the Roma deal. And yeah, they got it done. It was really complicated. Roma maxed out their FFP limit to get Romelu over the line, and then Roma did everything they could, and it was about Chelsea and Romelu reaching a compromise. And to be fair, I know Chelsea fans don't like Lukaku, and he gets ridiculed these days, and in some ways rightly so. But he agreed a pay cut, a big one. I think he's getting paid even less than he was at Inter last season. Gradually, he's getting paid less and less every year. So it's showing how his career is going to make the deal go over the line. And yeah, Roma are really excited about it. And remarkably as well with the deal, Romelu agreed a pay cut over the last 2 years of his Chelsea contract. It's staggering. But Chelsea had great leverage in the situation. They were like, look, we're compromising by sending you on loan. We wanted to sell you. The least you could do is lower your salary, which, by the way, is the biggest at our club. And Chelsea have managed to agree that with him. So fair play to Chelsea, fair play to Roma, fair play to Romelu. Everyone moved heaven and earth to make this work. In many ways, in football economics, it shouldn't have worked, but it has worked. And it's good because Roma get the player who could win them the league, Chelsea get huge wages off the books, not just next season, but the season beyond that as well. And yeah, I think that everyone gets a decent outcome. Compromise, like you said with Cucurella, compromise happened here, and I think it was a pretty good deal in the end.
Yeah, tough deal, no doubt about it. Really surprised. You went the most silver of linings on this deal.
Go on.
Roma fall in love with Lukaku, keep him for a second season. Tammy comes back after he's healthy.
Yeah, could happen.
Start the draft, Naz. Let's make it happen.
The release clause is active, man.
All right, I like it. And then last one was Broya. When we tried to record yesterday, there's some rumblings about him potentially sticking or twisting.
Sticky, and I don't see that one. I'm going to be pretty strong on this one. I know I've left a lot open in other cases, but I think he's staying. It would be a monumental surprise if he goes. So yeah, expect Breuer to stay and play some under 21s games soon. I think he's very close to being fit and ready.
All right. Overall, just real quick, like the business isn't done, but up to this point, how are you reacting to how much business Chelsea have done January, this summer transfer window, not only in but out? Like, are you impressed? Are you like this is your own fault in the making? Like, how are you viewing this transfer window? It has been crazy. I think if you compare it to any other club, this is probably the busiest window that a single club has had.
All three of Chelsea's last transfer windows have been ridiculous. So the first three under the new owners have been ridiculous for different reasons. It's been absolutely bonkers. But this one has probably been characterized by balancing the books, bad season, repairing things, getting people out who maybe are upset with the club, either upset with the club for good reason or bad reasons or whatever. It's just been about absolute revolution. It's unprecedented in many ways. It's certainly unprecedented in terms of money in and out. I think, yeah, Chelsea have balanced the books pretty well in this window, but we've got to remember that they're still balancing the books from the last two windows. So that the next deal, if Cole Palmer joins, then Chelsea will be the first club in football history to spend £1 billion in three transfer windows. That has never happened before. They've already broken many records. This will be the second biggest transfer window in football history after Chelsea's last few windows. So yeah, they're breaking records, and it's really good backing. But you just look at the team and think, are they actually a better team? And that's the question I think that we'll be asking once the window closes: is how good are Chelsea? Is this smart business? And I think that, to be honest, you've just got to prove it on the pitch, and that's the only way, really. And yes, we can take a long view because it's a very young squad, unprecedented youth as well, probably the youngest squad in the league. But yeah, I think we're going to look at it and really assess, like, they have to be good. They have to be good this season, but and we can also give them a bit of space to grow in the seasons before. But if you spend this much money, I expect some good performances, and I think Chelsea fans will too.
So yeah, so you assume an attacker's coming in. There's still going to be some exits, but we largely know what the team is going to be based on all of that and what you just said. What is kind of your expectation you're placing on Chelsea to be deemed a somewhat successful season?
Yeah, I think before the season started, I remember when we were in America together, and I think I said that six would be a great achievement. I think I'd like to revise that and work it up a bit. I think Chelsea must qualify for the Champions League after all this, and I think that is what this is about. You want that money after spending this money. You want to get the prize money, really, don't you? So it's important, I think, that Chelsea qualified for the Champions League, and let's not forget, it's a bit easier now. You can finish fifth, and you're probably going to be in it. So Chelsea have a good chance of making it, but I'd be aiming for that fifth spot. They have to do that bare minimum for me, and I think Poch is aiming high. So I don't think I'm speaking out of line by saying that should be the aim.
All right. I'm still sticking with top six in a domestic cup, which we will find out later today. You let me know, because Naz, it is not on broadcast here. I will not be watching the Wimbledon match. I will be notifications on, following your Twitter feed, because I appreciate what you do in the stadium. Have fun today. I will get this out ASAP so that none of our good takes go south too fast. How about that?
Yeah, the editor's got a great job now. Come on. Do it quick.
Oh man. Look, if you want to know what the latest is going on throughout this entire window and all season, you know to follow Naz. All right. Link in the description. Go follow Naz. Obviously, he's one of our good friends and does an amazing job with everything here. So Naz, again, thanks for carving out a little bit of time as you're getting blown up during the end of the transfer window. You're our hero. I appreciate you.
Yeah, brilliant. Speak to you soon, mate. It's been a
Uh,
pleasure.
All right, Chelsea fans, more content this week as always. But until next time, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.